Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm the City Witch. Today's video is going to be on the subject of books you can buy for herbs, trees and plants. So not all of these books that I'm going to talk to you about are going to be based around magic. Some of them are actually going to be just basic books on herbs, and there is reasons behind that, and I will get into that when we discuss each book individually. So I'm going to score each book on how I found them and whether I enjoyed them or not from 1 to 10, and I'm also going to give you some contents information about the books and whether I thought it was worth the money that was spent on it or not. So let's get into it. So the first book is one I've mentioned before on a previous video, but it's worth mentioning again in this one. And it's Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. So if you haven't actually had the chance to read any books by Scott Cunningham, I thoroughly recommend every book you could get by him. He's a fantastic writer and I've enjoyed all of his work so far, especially this one. I actually can't live without this book. This book is fantastic and I can't recommend it enough to you guys. So as you can see, I've used it quite a lot. It's quite warped. The spine is quite battered and damaged, and actually, if I'm honest, I refer to this nearly every day, especially when I'm working with herbs and doing magic for clients. If a client has mentioned to me they're pregnant or they've perhaps got some allergies or things that I might not have considered, and I kind of want to check that the herbs I'm using are safe or it's not going to affect the spell in any unusual way, this is what I refer to. And the reason for that is because at the back of the book, it kind of gives you this nice health code, which looks like that. Now, this is fantastic because every herb in this book, he's allocated to one of these codes. And I know off the top of my head that code G for any herb means safe. So it's safe to eat, it's safe to smell, it's safe to burn. So you've got no fears or worries with anything that's labelled G. But then there's also other keys in here. So he talks about, for example, P. So P represents if pregnant. And what that means is don't use if you're pregnant or if you're trying to get pregnant, because that particular herb can be potentially harmful to your baby or could cause you to miscarriage. So it's information like that that's quite important, especially if you're going to be using herbal magic in cooking. So this book, for that reason, is absolutely invaluable and I recommend it 110%. This is brilliant. So 10 out of 10 from me, guys, for that one. The next two go together, and I was recommended to buy these, and they're by Paul Beryl. So if the first one is the Compendium of Herbal Magic, which looks like that, and the next one is the Master Book of Herbalism, which is that one. And to be honest, I can't really give these too much credit because I barely use them, but actually they're probably worth a lot more than what I think they do. So I think I spent roughly about £16 or £17 on buying these each, so that's nearly £40, so it's quite a lot of money for something I barely use. But let's talk about this one first. So this one obviously has this beautiful front cover. It's really pretty to look at. It's obviously a really thick book, and it contains 330 herbal classifications. That is a lot of herbs, and it also gives you 100 beautiful illustrations. So this book also, just as a note, sold 40,000 copies. So this obviously was a really, really popular book at the time it came out, and the writer is fantastic. He's not boring, he doesn't contradict himself, he doesn't make you feel like a simpleton when you're reading it, and all the information that he gives you is really factual as well. So he's a really, really good writer. It's just that I think I was spoilt by Scott Cunningham's book first because I had that first, and then I got this one and I just never used it because I didn't need to. I had this other one. So this one does exactly what it says. It's just an encyclopedia of magical herbs you can potentially use in your craft and how it's used, and it gives you a little bit of information on that, so like the element, the planet and the deity that associates with it. And that's really it, to be honest. There are a couple of appendices in this, I believe. I'll just see if I can find them and read them out to you. So yeah, so you get a magical guide and uses for your herbs, deities and magical herbalism, working with astrological correspondences, herbal correspondences, and then the common names of your herbs. So if you only know the common name, you can look that up and it'll tell you what it's actually called, and then you can skip through to that page and find it in this book and read all about it. Now, there aren't really massively any negatives with this because it does exactly what it says on the cover, and it is a really nice book, and with so much information in it, I probably should use it more than I do. But as I said, I prefer Scott Cunningham's book because he actually gives you that health code, and no other book I've read on magical herbs does that at all. And that's what I love about that. Whereas this one, he might mention in the description, oh, it's poisonous, but he won't necessarily tell you how it's poisonous or how dangerous it is, whereas you get that from Scott Cunningham's book. So I automatically refer to that one, and if I can't find a herb in that one, that's when I refer to this one. But I've got to say, this is still a good book, so I'd probably for that reason score it a pretty decent score. It wouldn't be as high as Scott Cunningham's book, but I'd probably give it roughly about a 6 out of 10. But information wise, it's probably a 10 out of 10. It's just I don't use it, hence the 6 out of 10, guys. So the Master Book of Herbalism is actually a fantastic book. And looking back now, I wish I hadn't bought the compendium because I don't need it. I should have just stuck to Scott Cunningham's book and then this one, because in conjunction they're amazing. So in this one, he doesn't talk to you a massive amount about herbs. He does give you herbs in it, but the idea is you're supposed to use that one for the herbs and this one for the information on how to use the herbs. And what he does in this is fantastic. With 25 years experience in what he does, he's extremely knowledgeable and he gives you so much information in this. Just give you an idea, he gives you remedial herbalist information, herbal storage, the mortar and pestle and how it should be used, infusions, measurements, miscellaneous tools, preparations, doctrines, poultices, ointments and washes, fixatives, harvesting, herbal drying, herbs and advice. So he gives you a lot of information there, and then he gives you symptoms and herbal applications. Now I liked that chapter the best because I like to incorporate my herbs into my healing techniques, and as I am an alternative healer, it's nice to be able to recommend certain herbs that you can buy in places like Holland and Barrett that are completely safe to use, and recommend them to your clients and say, well, this is going to help you with this. And as it is in Herbal and Barrett as well, they can go in there and they can check that, and obviously because that's from a reputable source, chances are they're going to buy the herb and it's going to help them. And also from a home perspective as well, I don't really like doctors, I don't really trust them, they've misdiagnosed me a lot over the years. So if I can find a herbal treatment or an alternative therapy for something, I'm going to. And this book actually tells me obviously the symptoms and then what herbs can alleviate that. So if I've got a headache, I can go in this book, look up headache, and it'll tell me exactly what herbs are good for that and how I can go about using that herb. So it'll tell me, for example, oh, this particular herb is good for that, and what you want to do is actually brew it as a tea, and then it'll tell you which page to go to learn how to do that. So the information and the way that he connects all the information in this book is actually really interesting. Then he also gives you a section on magical uses of herbs for the practitioner. So he talks about magical herb gathering, potions and lotions, fluids and condensers, making incense and oils and balms, magical and religious uses of your herbs. So he gives you, like I said, a massive amount of information in this book. And I'm pretty sure he gives you appendices as well. Yeah, he does. So herbal and planetary correspondences, zodiac correspondences, deities alongside your herbs, and lore of the traditional herbalist, remedial classifications and magical classifications. So there is quite a lot of information in this book considering like how thin it is, and I've got to say I don't use it nearly as much as I should. I read it, I loved it, and then I just didn't pick it up again, and I probably should because I really enjoy alternative healing therapies and I'm qualified in it as well. So this actually would probably take that a step further for me if I really paid attention, took the time to read it again. So I'm probably after this video going to take time to read this again actually, because it's kind of inspired me and sort of renewed my thirst for the knowledge that's inside this. So for the knowledge that's contained within this, it's a 10 out of 10, guys. He is a fantastic writer. The knowledge is just superb, and he gives you a lot of information on how to use herbs in your craft in lots and lots of ways. I mean, I would never think to make balms. I've done floor washes, I've done a lot of different things with herbs in beauty, but I don't think to make lotions. Potions I have done, but not lotions. So again, really good book and lots of information, so 10 out of 10. So the next two books I'm going to talk to you about are both from the Bible collection, and it's these ones. So you've got the Chinese Medicine Bible, and then you've got the Healing Plants Bible. And actually I'm going to start with the Healing Plants Bible because it's actually a really good book, and I want to give you some information on the content contained within so you've got an idea. So the content of this book, you get a full introduction on how to use it, you get healing and medicinal herbs, edibility of your plants. So that's really cool because you're going to know which plants are actually edible. And that's something I really wanted to know about a lot of my plants, and especially flowers. I wanted to know which ones I could eat and add to salads, and this one actually taught you that, which was really good. And then healing energies of trees, plants for spiritual healing, flower essences, and then it gives you a full index and a glossary as well, and then some acknowledgements. It's a really good book. I mean, one of the things I did with this was when I was going through it, if there was something I was really interested in, like that one, for example, whoops, I'm dropping things, I would often find recipes in other books, kind of like that, where you could use that exact item. And what I did was I just kept it in the book like so, and then I could just refer to it whenever I wanted. So that's not something necessarily you guys can do, but it's just something I do. I take cuttings out of magazines and I often add them in books that are relevant and keep them together. And one of the things I do like about this book as well is it lists a load of trees, as I said, but it also gives you like the oak one that connects to that as well. So there is a little bit of witchcraft and spirituality involved in this book. So again, brownie points in its favour. It didn't feel like I was bored when I read it. I really enjoyed that it was full colour as well. It wasn't expensive to buy. I think I spent about £5 on it in a cheap bookstore. So again, easy to get hold of. If you're in the broom closet, this is a book on healing plants. It's not a book on witchcraft. So it's something you can get away with having in your personal library. And it's a way to incorporate witchcraft subtly without anyone knowing. So for that reason, I think that's a really good book to have. So I'm going to score this one quite high again because, as I say, it's really good. It's really handy. It's got lots of information in it and does give you some magical tips in it as well. So I'm going to say that it's probably about 7 out of 10 from me. The next one is this one, which is the Chinese Medicine Bible. This one's probably going to be scored roughly around the same, to be honest, because again, this is another really good book. So in the contents in this one, it gives you causes of disease and a diagnosis method. Talks to you about Chinese healing and all the different techniques. Talks to you about the theory of Chinese medicine and how it works. Acupressure and acupuncture. Understanding Chinese food cures, and then body work. And by body work, what it does there, it talks to you through lots and lots of different healing techniques that you might not have considered in conjunction with the Chinese medicine. So things like Qigong, Tai Chi, meditation, breathing exercises, Kundalini, so kind of stuff like that, which is really good. And it even talks to you about martial arts and actually how martial artists and samurais in the past used to incorporate a lot of these healing techniques to help themselves develop their muscles, their stamina, things like that, which was really quite interesting, to be honest. Now, I only initially bought this book because I was doing a holistic diagnosis course and I wanted to be able to pass, and I wanted to go down a route that took me into Chinese medicine, and I was going to do that course next, to be honest. So I got this book to aid me with that, and I passed my course, but then I never did the Chinese one after it, which is a shame. When I read this book, as I say, I thoroughly enjoyed it as and when I read it, but I haven't read it or used it since, which is a shame because it is a good book. But if it's a technique that you're interested in and you really are into meditation and deep breathing exercises and alternate versions of healing that aren't really that present in Western culture, then going through Eastern culture medicines is really a good idea. And actually a lot of the stuff that's in this is really good. It talks an awful lot about spices and roots, which we don't really use very often over here. And when I thought about it and actually went searching for them, a lot of the stuff that's in here you can get in a local supermarket. So it's not even that rare to get them, it's just that we never do because we always just stick to what we like and what we know, and that's exactly what I was doing. So for this one I actually started breaking away and looking at lots of different foods and herbs and things that I can incorporate and buy in my local supermarket. And one of those, for example, was the lychee. The lychee is kind of like, I don't know if you all know what it is, but it's like a fruit, I think, and it looks like a conker because it's kind of round and hard and covered in spikes, and you split it and peel away the casing, and then it looks like a pickle inside, like that white kind of squishy pickle you can get in jars. But when you eat it, it tastes like sugar. It's like one of the sweetest things ever, and it's got such good healing qualities inside it, and it's worth, a serious amount of money when you ingest it as well, because that item, by the time it comes over here, I think you spent about £4 or £5 getting a small bunch of them, but actually, the qualities of it's worth that money, which is why I want to mention it to you. And again, that's something I learned from this book. So, interesting facts, interesting techniques. I didn't take everything I learned from this book and use it in my everyday life, but little things like that I did. So, this one I'd say is probably about the same as the other, probably roughly about a 6 or a 7 out of 10. So the next two I'm going to talk to you about are ones on trees, and it's these two. So just give you a rundown on the differences. This one is a general book on trees, and it talks to you about the myth, the folklore and the healing power of the trees. It's by Jacqueline Memory Patterson. And then you've got this one, which is The Healing Power of Trees, which is a spiritual journey through the Celtic tree calendar by Sherilyn Hidalgo. And both of them do different things. This one, first of all, this one lists quite a large variety of trees, and it goes into a massive amount of detail. So it will list a tree, so say like the ash tree, and it'll talk to you about the tree itself, a full history of the tree, where it came from, if it's native to, you know, what country, and which countries you can actually find it in today. Talks about the bark, the leaves, the roots, talks about the flowers, so any nuts or fruit that it bears. So it talks about everything, and it tells you if any of it is poisonous as well as a warning, which is good. Then it talks to you about some myths and legends behind the tree. Then it talks to you about all the magical properties of the tree. Then it gives you magical uses for the tree, and then practical uses as well. So it recommends whether you can make wands out of it, for example. And it goes through quite a lot of trees in this one. I'll quickly run through them so you know what's in it. So you've got yew, holly, pine, hazel, blackthorn, silver birch, apple, hawthorn, ash, oak, elm, beech, rowan, alder, willow, elder, so alder and elder, poplars, and then it gives you a conclusion. And then this one focuses more on the Celtic tree calendar. So the trees in this are a little bit different. So in this one you get birch, rowan, alder, willow, ash, hawthorn, oak, holly, hazel, apple, vine, ivy, reed, blackthorn, elder. And then she does also in this one give you a couple of extras. So she talks to you about mistletoe, yew, honeysuckle, beech. So there's a couple of extra ones she felt like she needed to mention that are used in Celtic mythology, but not necessarily in the tree itself. And then she gives you some appendices in this one as well. So she gives you the trees and their association with the Ogham alphabet and the ruins. She gives you the Celtic Wheel of the Year and the 13 moons that they believe in. Talks to you about Celtic holidays and how they're celebrated, and then calling in your directions. So out of the two, this one is definitely more magical. This one is just more practical and factual. So this one isn't listed the way that the Celtic one is. It's just a book full of tons of information that you can choose to do with however you see fit. This one is for a magical practitioner who wants to follow the Celtic path, which I'm not a Celtic practitioner. I did study it for a time, and I've got to say this was one of the books I picked up for that, but then I read it and never used it. That's kind of similar with this one. Again, I read it, loved it, didn't use it. So they're both probably roughly around the same. No one is better than the other. They both contain a lot of information, and they're roughly the only ones on the market that I know of that talk about trees in a magical capacity. And when I was thinking about making wands and spoons and things like that for my craft, you know, special magical items, this was kind of what I did. I bought these books, I went through them, I picked my trees and my woods, and then I just kind of got on with it from there, knowing what magical associations those things had. And that was as far as it went for me. But trees are obviously used in magic quite a lot. A lot of the things to do with trees are used a lot, such as the berries, the leaves, the roots. So these are obviously things that you might want to consider. Now, if you're not interested in going to tree magic, then I wouldn't bother buying them because it's not worth the money. And a lot of books on herbs these days actually list some of the trees as well. So you might get away with not needing these, but I already had these when I was getting those as well. So it wasn't worth getting rid of them, it's worth keeping. So these ones I would probably score maybe about 7 out of 10 for both of them, to be honest. So the next one I'm going to talk to you about is one that I don't think any of you will have thought of getting, but you probably will have an interest in the subject. And I'll read you the title first because actually it's really gripping and I love it. So it's called Wicked Plants, the A to Z of plants that kill, maim, intoxicate and otherwise offend, which is a fantastic title. And then on the back of the book it says, beware the sordid lives of plants behaving badly. So again, it grips you straight away. It's a fantastic title. And the book kind of looks like that. And it's by Amy Stewart. Now, I love this book. It's brilliant. It's not a magical book at all. It's just a book of poisonous plants. But I love it. It's brilliant. I mean, you get lovely artwork in it like that. The pages are really nice material, really nice and soft. And the way it's laid out as well, it kind of has this dark kind of feel to the book. It makes you feel quite gothy when you're reading it. The information it gives you is really fantastic, but it actually can be quite grim. So if you're a bit faint-hearted, maybe don't read it, because it does talk to you about all the ways these plants can possibly make you feel and some of the symptoms you can experience, and they can be quite to be honest, just to warn you. But it does give you some factual information about the plant. It does show you what it looks like. It does talk to you about some of the bits and pieces about the plant you might not have considered. It tells you how dangerous it is. So it's really interesting to have, and again, because it gives you pictures, obviously you know what it looks like, you know what to watch out for. And there are going to be books out there, especially some of the ones I've already mentioned to you, that do talk to you about having poisonous plants in your collection or considering them to honour certain deities or do certain magic spells. My advice on that is this: if you're not comfortable having anything poisonous in your home, then don't. Look up the associations, like the practical magical meanings of that herb, and then go and find one that's very similar or exactly the same that's safe to use, and use that instead, because there's no reason why you can't change a recipe to incorporate a different herb that has all the same qualities. You can totally do that, guys, so do that if you want to. The other thing I want to say is as well, if you are honestly going to go out there and start looking for poisonous herbs, you need to be very safe. There are a lot of herbs in here that are deadly to even the touch, and the smell can be deadly. Ingesting them or even accidentally getting anything in your mouth and ingesting it can be really dangerous. So please be super careful, wear gloves, be sensible, understand the plant thoroughly and respect it before you do go out and search for any of these plants. And if you're buying them, make sure they are what they say they are and you're not being fobbed off. And again, when they arrive, please just handle them carefully. This book though, to get back to it, fantastic book. Worth every penny that was spent on it. It was actually a gift, so I didn't buy it. It does say £9.99 on it though, so it's £10, so that's not too bad for a book. But I do think it's a nice book to have in your collection, and if it is a subject you're interested in, if you're taking your herb craft to that next level and you want to understand how to use poisonous herbs, this one is really good, really interesting, and it's really pretty as well. So I score is quite high. It's probably a 10 out of 10 for what it is, but as a magical book, it's not magical, so probably quite low, a 4 or 5 for that reason, because it's not going to give you magical qualities. But for the information and everything else, 10 out of 10. So the next one I want to talk to you about is the only one of its kind I have in my collection, so I can't actually compare it to anything else. And it's called Flower Therapy, Welcome the Angels of Nature into Your Life. It's by Doreen Virtue and Robert Reeves, and it looks like that. Now, this one was bought for me as a gift again, and it's actually quite a nice book. I like the way it's laid out. So in this one, it's full colour book, so you get a nice picture of the plant in question. You get the title of it, and it'll tell you if it has an alternative name. It tells you its botanical name, its common varieties, energetic properties. So for that, it'll say perseverance, remembering to ask for help going forward, attracting money, fulfillment, so on and so forth. Associated angels, which is nice. Associated chakras as well, and then it'll give you a healing description. And then this is another thing this book does. You can use this for divination purposes, so it gives you like a message from the plant itself as if it's talking to you. So what I do there, if I want to consult this, is I'll flip and ask my question, stop, when I feel the need, and then I'll look where I'm on. If you get one that's too like that, I might hover my hand over and feel which one I'm drawn to, and then read the message from it. And that's kind of how I do that. Now, I use this for divination more than I use it for flowers itself, but I've got to say I do like that she lists the angels and the chakras and some lovely little pieces of information there about the actual plant, and I do like that it gives you magical associations. I think that comes from Doreen Virtue because she is a magical practitioner, but Robert Reeves is more the practical side of the plant, so its botanical name and what it can be used for and how it heals. So you get a nice blend of both. Like, as I say, I can't compare this to anything else, so I'm just going to score it as I think it should be scored, and it probably, for the information it has and for how pretty it is, should be scored about an 8, but as I don't use this and I don't feel as drawn to it, and I actually really don't like the writer Doreen Virtue, which is a personal preference, guys, I would probably score this lower, which is about a 5 out of 10. And again, it's just personal preference. I just have a few grievances with her as a writer. I just don't enjoy her writing. But as Robert Reeves did have an impact on this book, I did find it more enjoyable than some of the others I've read. So yeah, so for information wise, probably a 6 or a 7, but how I felt about it, more of a 5. So the next ones are not magical books at all, but these are the ones that I was talking to you about that you're probably going to need if you're getting serious about learning about herbs. So obviously you're going to debate in herb magic whether it's better to buy your herbs or if you want to grow them, and if you've got the space to grow them, that's probably what you're going to want to do, because you can harvest them whenever you like. You can enjoy them in your cooking as well and use them in magical cooking. And let's face it, it's easier to go outside in your garden and take a few cuttings of a plant than it is to run off to the supermarket and hope they've got what you need. So these are ones you're probably going to want to consider getting. These ones teach you how to take care of your herbs and how to grow them. So the best book I have ever owned, and actually I got rid of all of the others, this is the only one I possess now in order to teach me how to grow and take care of my herbs. And it's called The Ultimate Book of Herbs, a definitive A to Z of herbs and how to grow them and use them. And it's by the Reader's Digest, and it looks like that. And this book is really heavy, guys, and it's really chunky as well. It's quite a big book, and it's easily the best book I've ever owned. As I say, I got rid of all the others. I didn't need them. This had everything I needed inside it, and I love it. I use it a lot. So the content in this book, just to give you an idea, is it has a herbal dictionary, an A to Z guide of 100 herbs and ways to use them for health and home. Then it gives you a section on gardening, so that's information on how to successfully grow your herbs from anything from a back garden to a windowsill. It gives you a herbal medicine guide, so herbal remedies to boost general health and well-being and treat common ailments. Then it gives you a natural beauty section, so how to incorporate your herbs in cleansing, pampering, and using your herbs for essential oils. So you can actually make your own essential oils and your own kind of flower essences and things by using that section, which is really nice. Then there's a section on around the home, so it talks about from worktop to bathroom, from clothes to pets, the herbal solutions that work best, which rhymes, which is quite cool. And then you've got a crafting section, so it teaches you how to make things with your herbs and your flowers, and then a cooking section as well, where it gives you some recipes from around the world that you might want to consider trying. So this book is really informative, and actually, as I say, you can see there that I actually have these little bits in it, so I actually use this quite a lot. One of the things I did actually do from this, which I really enjoyed, was I was learning how to make my own bath bombs. I made myself like a guide that I took from this book. And it's actually quite simple what they do in this book, but I actually really like it. That's why I made this. And then I did one on salts as well. So loads of information in this book, worth looking through, worth getting. And say I don't use anything else to garden. I just use this book because it has everything I need in it. And most of the herbs that I'm going to want to grow anyway are safe to grow in my garden. They're not ones that are going to be poisonous or anything. So again, they're going to be in books like this. So this one is definitely 10 out of 10. Fantastic, can't rate it enough. But it's personal preference. If you prefer a different gardening book or you've already got one in your collection, you probably don't need this. But I just thought I'd mention it for those of you who are in the broom closet and you're thinking about going out there and getting a book on how to garden, how to grow your own herbs. This one I thought was fantastic, guys. Definitely give it a look. The other reason I'm going to talk to you about these last two books is because, again, with the poison one and with growing your own herbs or considering getting into herb magic, you're probably going to get the idea into your heads that you want to go out there and forage. So for that reason, these ones are worth mentioning, and it's these two. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about is this one, which is Food for Free. Now, I use this one all year round, and actually I used it this year with my partner. We went out and foraged wild berries. We got strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. So, and they were all completely free, and all we did was walk down to my local canal at the season we knew they'd be out with a load of bowls, and we just picked a load. And these days, you know, strawberries are like £2 for like a small box full. Whereas when we walked along the canal, we got hundreds of them. We were inundated, and we had to give them to friends and family and all sorts. So actually, you know, when food is out there free, you know, why not go out and forage for it? So this book, for that reason, teaches you how to do that and teaches you how to be safe with it. And as you can tell, I use it a lot. I've got a lot of sticking tags in it. This one, just to give you an idea of its content, because it is quite a good book. So it talks to you about wild food and how necessary it is. Talks to you about the plant use and conservation. Talks to you about the layout of the book and some recipes. Then it gives you plants and trees. So it talks to you about roots, herbs, spices, flowers, fruits, making jellies and jams, nuts, some pickling rules, a calendar and an A to Z entry. Then it talks to you about fungi, and it tells you some picking rules, drying and pickling and an A to Z entry. Then seaweeds, some gathering rules, some cooking hints and an A to Z. And then shellfish, some gathering rules and an A to Z entry. And then it gives you an idea of further reading should you want to go on and explore from this further. So this was a really good book, and it was only £4.99, so it's less than £5, guys. It's, you know, really easy to get hold of. It's one of Colin's family, and actually I've had this for quite a few years, so there's probably an updated version that's probably a little bit better than this now. So if you are going to go out there and forage and think, oh, it's cheaper for me to go out and find my herbs and my plants, this one's a really good idea, and everything that's in this is actually safe to ingest. So again, if you're looking for herbs and plants, which you know you can use in your cooking as well, and no one's going to accidentally get poisoned, this is the one you want to go for. And then you've got this one, wildflowers. So again, as I was getting into flower magic and I got the flower therapy one, I just decided to get hold of this as well. I was starting to expand on using flower magic and incorporating flowers in my witchcraft. Flowers obviously have their purpose. I mean, roses is an obvious one. Everybody tends to use roses. Lavender is another one. So they are actually flowers rather than herbs, I suppose. But, you know, well, lavender's a bit of a both. It's a herb and it's a flower. So this book, what it does is this one allows you to be able to go out there, find wild flowers and be safe while picking and harvesting them. And again, it does give you any warnings if there is any. And what I did was I basically just tagged off ones I was interested in. So cloves is one of the ones used in witchcraft. So I tag it off like that. And what I do is it would tell me when it can be harvested. So, you know, it flowers between May and September according to this. So I would program that into my phone saying cloves can now be wild harvested. And I would go out there and I keep an eye out for them. And if I spotted them, chances are I back them up and take them home with me, dry them out and use them in my witchcraft. So again, free, simple, and I know when I'm looking out for them. You know, things like hemlock and wild angelica as well, wild onions, you know, there's all sorts of things out there that you can consider getting, you know, wild thyme, you know, there's all sorts of herbs and plants in this which are worth looking at, and for the flower purposes, again, great. So this in conjunction with this was fantastic for wild foraging. But if you are going to do it, guys, just be really safe and careful, be sensible, wear some gloves. Don't go out there with a huge magical knife and hack away. Just stick to the basics. Take yourself a pair of clippers, maybe cleanse them, magically charge them if you are going to gather for magical purposes. Take lots of baggies or envelopes out with you in order to put your plants in and label them up. And again, try not to mix them or get them mixed. Take a rucksack with you. If you have a dog, it's a good excuse to walk the dog and look like that's what you're doing. And again, if it's about, you know, flowers, no one's going to question that, and you can get lots of people involved. Young kids can get involved as well, teach them all about the plants. So it can be a great family hobby doing something like this. So that's all I've got for you today. I don't really have any, I do have more books I could talk to you about, but they're the main ones. They're the ones I wanted to focus on because they cover all the main subjects that I think you'd be interested in. If any of these books did interest you and you wanted to know a little bit more about them, you can leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you liked this video, please give me that all important thumbs up. That lets me know you liked it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so, and then it'll give you a notice when my next video comes out. And hopefully, if you enjoyed it, you'll let your friends and family know, and hopefully they'll enjoy more videos from me as well in the future. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm the City Witch. Be good to each other. Bye for now.